Hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the totally fascinating 9,000-year journey of the cat. We see them every single day, right? Sleeping in a sunbeam or completely taking over the internet. But their journey alongside humanity, it is an epic story. We're talking ancient temple walls, the wooden decks of global sailing ships, and the shadowy halls of medieval monasteries. So, this isn't just the history of a cute pet. It's really the history of human civilization, told through the quiet, watchful eyes of the ultimate survivor. Let's get right into it. Okay, here's our quick roadmap for today. We're going to cover origins of the partnership, ancient gods and guardians, seafaring and global spread, magic, monks and myths, the rise of pedigrees, and finally, the modern indoor companion. Starting off with Section 1, Origins of the Partnership. Now, long before anyone ever thought to go out and buy a plush scratching post, a much more primal relationship was forming in the world's very first agricultural settlements. Picture this. Early humans finally settle down and start storing their harvests in clay jars. Green meant security for us, but man, it was an absolute magnet for mice. And for a wild Near Eastern cat, these human villages were essentially endless, self-refilling buffets. We didn't capture cats and train them to pull carts or guard herds. No way. The cats simply showed up for the free food. The least fearful ones hung around, raised their kittens nearby, and boom, a partnership was born. But it was built entirely on convenience, not obedience, which honestly explains a lot about why cats kept that famous independent streak, doesn't it? But what's truly mind-blowing is just how incredibly old this bond really is. Archaeologists actually found a 9,000-year-old human burial in Cyprus, and the person was intentionally buried right alongside a cat. 9,000 years. And here's the kicker. Wild cats aren't even native to Cyprus. That means someone went out of their way to bring a cat with them across open water in a small boat. You absolutely do not make that kind of monumental effort for an animal you don't deeply care about. It proves that way before recorded history, this arrangement had already shifted from just practical pest control to genuine affection. Moving right along to Section 2, Ancient Gods and Guardians. As our settlements grew into vast, complex empires, the cat's job descriptions shifted drastically. They went from simple pest controllers to esteemed guardians and, in some places, literal gods. In ancient Egypt, the cult of Bastet linked cats directly to home protection and fertility. They were so revered, in fact, that harming a cat could result in severe legal punishment. They even had massive cemeteries dedicated to mummified cats, wrapped with just incredible care. Meanwhile, over in the Roman Empire, okay, fun fact, Roman households originally used weasels for pest control. Can you imagine living with a weasel? But cats eventually proved way easier to live with. They worked without needing supervision, they guarded precious scrolls and libraries, and they became such normal everyday fixtures that we even see them immortalized underfoot in the famous domestic frescoes at Pompeii. Which brings us to Section 3, Seafaring and Global Spread. So cats were about to conquer the world. Not by force, obviously, but by invitation. They became the invisible engine of global trade and exploration. Think about the ancient Silk Road. Caravans were carrying priceless silk and spices, but just one rat could ruin weeks of food supplies. So cats stepped up as living pest control, seamlessly slipping between different cultures. Jump forward to the Viking Age, and cats are actually sailing on Norse longships, protecting provisions from rodents in the freezing cold and spreading into new settlements. By the Age of Exploration and the colonial era, cats were riding European wooden ships across the Atlantic. They were literally protecting the grain wealth that allowed early American farms to survive those brutal winters. And they weren't just random stowaways either. They were practical assets and massive emotional anchors. Naval records, like actual Royal Navy ship logs, listed cats as official cargo, right alongside the tools and the food. They stopped rats from chewing through ropes and eating hard biscuits, which, back then, could mean the difference between life and starvation. Plus, sailors actually believed cats could predict storms through changes in their behavior. Imagine being at sea for months. Having a cat around provided this crucial sliver of normalcy and comfort when you were thousands of miles from home. Next up, Section 4, Magic, Monks, and Myths. As cats spread deeper into medieval Europe and Asia, things got complicated. They became totally entangled in a web of human superstition, deep reverence, and profound fear. Their independent nature kind of made them a blank canvas for human imagination.
On one hand, monasteries absolutely relied on them. I mean, a scribe could spend months hand-copying a parchment, only for a single mouse to ruin it in minutes. So cats were literally the guardians of medieval knowledge. But on the flip side, those exact same traits, the silent steps, the glowing eyes at night, that fierce independence, made them targets. During the witch trials, cats, especially black ones, were scapegoated as symbols of dark magic and bad luck. And the irony, when towns went on anti-cat campaigns, it usually backfired terribly, leading to massive rodent infestations because they just eliminated their best pest controllers.
But amidst all that fear, there were beautiful moments of connection. Take the medieval Irish poem Panger Bon. It's written by a monk who affectionately compares his own painstaking late-night scholarly study to his cat's patient hunt for a mouse. It's completely devoid of superstition. It's literally just a guy and his cat, both quietly doing their jobs in the dark. It's this wonderful micro-story showing that genuine, affectionate companionship existed long before we thought of cats as conventional pets. All right, moving into Section 5, the rise of pedigrees. Fast forward to the 19th century. The Industrial Revolution and changing social classes dramatically reshaped how we valued these animals. We basically went from asking, what can this cat do, to what does this cat look like? Pet keeping became a major status symbol for the middle class. Keeping a cat strictly indoors meant your home was orderly, and you had enough resources to feed an animal that wasn't just working for its keep. This whole cultural shift culminated in the first major cat show at London's Crystal Palace. People strolled past rows of cats, admiring ear shapes, fur textures, the whole shebang. It was the birth of the curated show cat. Human desire was now actively organizing and sculpting nature. And you can see how specific breeds basically became living souvenirs of history. The Siamese, for instance, arrived as royal diplomatic gifts from Thailand, carrying this aura of exotic prestige. Persian cats, with those long, luxurious coats, they became literal status symbols in Victorian parlors, basically proving their owners had the time and money for endless grooming. The Maine Coon merged the rugged, practical history of seafaring cats with local American folklore. And the Sphinx? That was simply a spontaneous random genetic mutation in the 20th century that humans just found fascinating enough to intentionally preserve. We essentially started treating their genetics like a living art project. Finally, Section 6, the modern indoor companion. As our world rapidly modernized, the cat moved from shadowy barns and alleyways permanently into our living rooms. And during our darkest hours, they were absolutely crucial. Letters from plague-era outbreaks and diaries from the muddy trenches of World War I describe cats providing this incredibly raw, necessary thread of human dignity. Amidst artillery fire and endless fear, just feeding a stray cat or watching it play gave soldiers a momentary chance to feel human again. They weren't just catching trench rats, they were psychological lifelines in an incredibly abnormal world. After that, a combination of modern advancements solidified their new identity as pampered family members. Think about it. As cities built better sewers and sealed up food containers, the constant pressure from rodents dropped. Cats were essentially out of a job, but instead of leaving, they stayed. Early photography made them household celebrities. Then, modern veterinary medicine and vaccines drastically extended their lives, turning them from replaceable background workers into lifelong companions. Microchips completely changed the emotional math of finding a lost pet. And today? Well, the internet has turned their natural, unpredictable quirks into a shared global language, making them absolute viral superstars. So, to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. It's a partnership that began in ancient dusty granaries and ended up completely conquering the modern world. They showed up thousands of years ago, right? Just looking for a free meal from our mouse problems. They never agreed to pull a plow, they never agreed to guard a flock. Yet just through their quiet watchfulness, they somehow convinced us to worship them, sail them across vast oceans, invent little doors specifically for them, and eventually dedicate massive chunks of the internet to them. It really makes you wonder, as your cat sleeps peacefully on your keyboard today, after 9,000 years, did humanity tame the cat, or did the cat simply train humanity? Thanks so much for exploring this remarkable history with me today. Keep wondering, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.